Welcome to Lecture 4. Today, we're taking the foundational principles of graphic design and breaking them down into simple, practical concepts you can start using immediately. This explainer is designed to take you from an absolute beginner right through to becoming a confident creator. And we'll do that by focusing purely on the core rules that govern every single successful layout out there. Here is our roadmap for the day. First, we'll define graphic design. Then we'll move into contrast and visual hierarchy, achieving balance, emphasis and proportion, color psychology and white space, and finally wrap it all up with a quick summary and revision. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Defining graphic design and finding structural order. Because, understanding our end goal makes learning the actual tools a whole lot easier. To kick things off, we have this classic quote from William Addison Dwiggins that perfectly anchors our whole discussion. When writing about his profession, he said his exact role was to bring structural order and visual form to printed communication. Notice he didn't just say his job was to make things look pretty. It's really all about structure. So, as a graphic designer, your role is fundamentally about applying specific principles to organize and clarify information. Whether you're building logos, whole brand systems, or standard layouts, your main job is to help an entity communicate its message so clearly that the viewer just instantly gets it. Which brings us to Section 2, Contrast and Visual Hierarchy, or How to Make Things Pop. Now that we know we're aiming for structural order, let's check out our first big tool to make that happen. Contrast is all about how elements in a design differ or oppose one another. By leaning into contrast, you can make very specific aspects of your design wonderfully distinct. That could mean pairing a massive graphic right next to a tiny one, or mixing a rough texture with a perfectly smooth one to tell a clear visual story. You can instantly see contrast at work when bright typography is placed against a dark background. That high color contrast is exactly what makes the key elements pop off the screen. It establishes a crystal clear visual hierarchy, which honestly just gives the user a much better, far more legible experience. Moving right along to Section 3, Achieving Balance in Design and Managing Visual Weight. This is how we make sure those high contrast elements don't completely overwhelm your viewer. Balance is really all about distributing visual weight. Think of it kind of like a seesaw. When you put objects, colors, textures, and empty space onto a canvas, every single element carries a certain visual heaviness. You've got to balance those elements evenly so the whole composition feels stable and grounded, rather than chaotic or lopsided. A brilliant illustration of this is pairing something incredibly intricate, like the detailed red mechanisms of a watch, with something entirely solid and heavy, like a black dial. They look completely different, right? But their visual weight is perfectly distributed, creating a beautifully harmonious and stable image. Section 4, Emphasis and Proportion, or Guiding the Eye. Because once you've got a perfectly balanced canvas, you have to tell the viewer exactly where to look first. Emphasis is the art of making a specific element stand out to grab immediate attention. It's about intentionally placing items on the page right where the human eye naturally wants to go. You're essentially building an undeniable focal point. A classic example of this is playfully arranging French fries in the center of a bold red background to mimic a universal Wi-Fi signal. Because of exactly how and where those fries are placed, it immediately grabs your attention and communicates the core message, free Wi-Fi, in a split second. Closely related to emphasis is scale and proportion. This is really just the size and weight of elements relative to one another. If you tweak the scale of one thing, it completely changes its relationship to everything else in the layout. Why? Simply put, we naturally assume larger elements are more important. Think about an advertisement featuring a massive, exaggerated elephant riding in the back of a small truck. That huge proportion instantly communicates the idea of an incredibly heavy load. Because the elephant is so large compared to the truck, it commands the absolute top spot in the visual hierarchy, driving the brand's message of strength right home. Moving into our final theoretical section, Section 5, Color Psychology and White Space, focusing on mood and usability. Let's talk about setting the tone and the invisible glue that holds your whole design together. Getting a firm grip on color theory principles obviously helps you build visually stunning palettes, but it goes way deeper than just picking colors that look nice. Concepts like harmony, temperature, and contrast are incredibly powerful tools. Choosing the right colors matches a brand's actual personality, directs the user's attention exactly where you want it, and can literally evoke specific emotions on demand. But here's a fascinating paradox you're definitely going to run into out in the real world. The empty space around those colors and images is almost always misunderstood. Clients will constantly ask you to reduce it. Stakeholders will try to cram more text into it. But those instincts are entirely wrong because they actively work against the user. See, white space, or negative space, is not just blank, wasted space. It is a highly active design element. It's the empty area between and around your elements, and its job is absolutely vital. It gracefully guides the eye, severely reduces cognitive load, and makes everything significantly easier to digest and use. Section 6, Summary and Revision. We've covered a ton of fundamental ground today, so let's quickly recap our core rules to ensure you're fully equipped to put them into practice. Keep these tips right in your back pocket. Your ultimate goal is bringing structural order to communication. Use contrast to make things distinct and pop. Distribute visual weight to achieve stability. Leverage proportion and emphasis to guide the viewer's eye exactly where it needs to go, and use color and white space strategically to reduce cognitive load. So the next time you sit down to start a brand new assignment and you're staring at a totally blank screen, I want you to ask yourself, which of these foundational tools are you going to pull out first to transform that empty space into clear, compelling, structural communication? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and have fun designing.